Welcome to the most challenging sport in the world. More challenging than climbing Mount Everest. Why? Because there are far more variables to achieve the ultimate aim in our sport than there are in any other. Self-preparation, physically, being able to move around the boat like a mouse with carpet slippers on, as opposed to a herd of elephants. Boat preparation, making sure you've got the best racing machine out there on the water. Boat handling, tacking, jibing, spinnaker work, mark rounding. Boat tuning, understanding what makes your ferret machine go fast in a straight line. So who is this DVD for? It is for any racing ferret who would like to improve their personal performance within the sport, either at club, national or international level. Now I can't show you all this by myself, so we have brought together a top set of racing ferrets to show you how to do it. Let's go and meet the team.
Hi, I'm Alan Syne, I'm 19 years of age. I've been sailing since I was 10 years old, where I started in a topper and progressed into a 29, now crewing for Tristan Jake.
Hi, I'm Pippa Wilson. I'm 19 and I've been sailing all my life. Started competitively sailing at the age of 8 in a cadet and moved on to the 29 and then the 420.
My name's Nick Thompson. I've been sailing since about the age of 2, followed the typical ROA programme. So started off in cadets, moved into Optimist, sailed them for about 4 years, then moved into a laser radio and finally into a forward, which is the boat behind me.
Hi, I'm Harriet Turnbull. I'm 17 and I started sailing when I was really little. I started off in the topper and then I moved on to 29er for about 3 months and then moved on to crewing a 420.
My biggest sailing achievement was winning the 29er World Championships held in Switzerland back in August 2004.
In 2002, we got gold at the Youth Worlds in the 29er and went on to win the Europeans. And in 2004, bronze at the Youth Worlds in the 420 and won the Europeans and the Nationals.
My greatest achievements are when I was teamed up with Pippa in the 420. We won gold at the 420 Europeans in Croatia and then topped it off with a bronze at the Youth Worlds in Poland.
My greatest achievement in sailing is probably when I became the ISAF Youth World Champion in Gdynia in Poland.
My future aim is to go to the 2012 Olympics in a 470 dinghy.
The people I most admire would have to be Ellen MacArthur and Paul Brotherton.
My aim for the future is to go on to get a gold medal at the Olympic Games, maybe 2008 or possibly 2012.
My greatest aim is to get an Olympic gold, possibly in more than one class.
And it doesn't end there. We've also got some Olympic treats for you.
Hi, I'm Chris Draper, I'm 26 years old. I've sailed 49er with Simon Hiscox. We've been sailing together for about 3-4 years. Like many of you, I started sailing the Optimist about 6-7 years old and then sailed the 420 and the 470 and now in the 49er, as I said.
I'm Simon Hiscox, 31 years old. Started sailing when I was 14 in a mirror dinghy. Guest swam to lasers and then crewing Fireball, 505, 18-foot skiff. Before in 1998 started sailing the 49er.
Simon and I have enjoyed some good times, we've had some good success. We won the ISAF Worlds in 2003, second in a couple of other Worlds and then the bronze medal at the Olympics in Athens.
Plans for the future will be to try and complete the medal collection with a gold medal Beijing in 2008.
Now you've met the team, let's get down to business. As my old mate Lord Nelson used to say, only the fittest will win. How true that is to this very day. Ask Ben Ainsley and Ellen MacArthur. It doesn't matter whether your sights are set on the Olympics or just beating your dad around the course. The fact is that if you're fit, you're far more likely to achieve what you want. So, how fit do we need to be? Well, fit enough to sail as hard on the last leg of the last race as we did on the first leg of the first race in the upper wind range and survive the social programme. To get fit enough for competition, it'll take 12 weeks of steady training. combined with a good on-the-water program. Remember, we're talking about fitness for racing, so our routine should help us physically improve when we're out on the water. Stamina. Cycling, jogging and swimming, all part of your overall fitness training program. You'll need at least 30 minutes a day to develop your overall endurance for the sport of sailing. So why is stamina important? Just think of a windy day at the big event of the year. You might have to make it through 3 hard races, so stamina training prior to the event will make the world of difference to your performance, both physically and mentally. Weight training can be part of our fitness training program. However, here we need to be very careful, because if our bodies are still developing, we can only use light weights, high repetition. Once our bodies have developed, we can then move on to heavier weights, low repetition. Having strong limbs is a real plus point when tackling the race course. If you can hike that bit harder or grunt the main when going upwind, you'll already have a serious advantage before we even tackle how to handle your boat. Flexibility, mobility and agility are all part of modern day performance dinghy racing, and to stretch out and warm up prior to any vigorous exercise is very important. Very few realise how vital flexibility training can be. Look at these pictures and notice all the bending and stretching that goes on in just one single jibe. To pull off the slickest manoeuvres, you're going to have to be quick and light-footed across the boat. And this is particularly important where speed is of the essence, just like in 29er and 49er sailing. Good fitness training is really important in our sport. Physical fitness breeds mental fitness, and that's exactly what we need for competitive racing. Just go out there and give it a go. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes. Now that we're fit enough for the event, it's important to remain fit. And to do this, we do a daily routine of light exercises to maintain our mobility, flexibility and agility. It is important in the final phase not to pick up any sports injuries. If you do, then crashing about on the water like these guys is out of the question, so take it easy. Nutrition, ferret fodder, rocket fuel. You are what you eat. It's all part of your preparation to perform on the water to the best of your physical ability. Vitamins, proteins, carbohydrates, minerals are all part of a well-balanced diet. But when we think about diet, we're not talking about losing weight. We're really talking about nutrition. And you'll be amazed at how eating the right food can actually help you achieve specific sporting goals.
One thing to consider if you've got more than 2 races a day is how you're going to get the energy back in that you're expending. Some of the examples of food that we've got here, bananas, jelly babies, Alpen bars, things like that, are all the sorts of food that you might want to be thinking about eating while on the water. They've all got high energy content, releases quickly, gets back into your energy stream and helps you get back to performing at your best. I'd tend to go for something like an Alpen bar or something similar, something that's in a waterproof cover, so when you do come to eat it, it's not going to be salty. Jelly babies are fantastic. They've got very little fat in them, but lots and lots of carbohydrate, lots of energy. Similarly bananas, but as I say, they're not waterproof, so they might deteriorate while on the water. But it is essential that you do try and get some food back inside you if you are doing more than 2 races a day.
Hydration is of even greater importance. A loss of body fluids will lead to an even greater loss in performance. Drinking any fluid is better than no fluid, but ideally we'll drink an isotonic style drink mix. These are available in powdered or bottled form.
By combining the concepts of fitness training and nutrition, we can help to mould our body shape. Take Nick for example in the laser. He's a young chap with very high aims, and unless he has that classic laser sailor physique of about 80 kilos, he'll struggle. So by combining a tough physical routine, including all these exercises, with a diet of high protein and high carbohydrate, he's slowly reaching his optimum weight. Only 3 kilos to go, I believe. Achieving your optimum level of fitness and physique can take quite a long time whilst you are young, but you'll get there sooner if you eat more of this and save these for treats later on. Now that we've prepared ourselves, it is time to get our boats sorted. You need to ask yourselves, is my boat ready for racing? And we're not just talking the big events, like here at the Youth Worlds. A well-maintained boat can give you the upper hand in any racing situation, and there's no excuse for a poorly maintained vessel. Now, the next question to address is your boat legal? This can be a major issue at the big events. Different classes have different regulations that govern your boat setup. Make sure you understand what you can and cannot do. For the laser, rigging is pretty straightforward, but for something more technical like our 420, it's well worth understanding the rules. Once you've mastered this, it's on to maintenance. Let's start with the bottom of the boat. Is the hull clean, polished, free of scratches? If not, it's going to impair your boat speed. The hull must be smooth with a good racing finish. It's no good arriving at an event with a hull that is dirty, scratched and chipped, and then wonder why boat speed is below par. It should be cleaned well and polished to reduce the surface drag. It's certainly the unglamorous side to sailing, but it all amounts to faster boats in the end. Like the hull, the foils need to be clean and polished and free of scratches, and check the edges that they are nice and straight. Centreboards and rudder blades are very expensive items, so make sure they're always kept in bags, as the trailing edges are very fragile. It's not unusual to get the odd nick or scratch, so before you head off to an event, make sure you've given them the once-over. When you have a choice of spars, as you do with the 420, it is really important that you choose the right one for your body weight. In one design classes like the laser, all spars come from one manufacturer and should be identical. In the 420 and many other classes, there's a range of suppliers to choose from, resulting in slightly different properties. Have a chat to the suppliers, and they'll advise on the best spars to use for your personal sailing requirements. Sails are the engine of your racing machine, so look after them. Don't let them flog too much in the dinghy park, and when not in use, keep them rolled up. We all know that cracking a new sail open at every event is unrealistic, so try to maintain what you already have. If you've been blasting around on the sea, make sure you hose your sails down. The same goes for the rest of your boat. It'll be a much faster one if you do this, I promise. Fittings, tow straps, blocks, cleats, they are everywhere, so we must make sure that they are fully operational and safe and secure within the boat. Some people really overdo the number of fittings on their boats. Complicated isn't fast, so try to use as few as possible. This reduces the weight of your boat and the chances of gear failure. Blocks and cleats get quite a bashing out on the water, so try to inspect them regularly and replace them at the first signs of wear and tear. Boat preparation plays a major part in getting ready for the big event. So if you turn up at a competition with unproven, untested equipment, don't be surprised if things go wrong. We've got you sorted, we've got the boat sorted, now we've got to learn how to handle it right. Handling your boat effectively is very important to get round the racecourse as quickly as possible. We'll use our top sailing ferrets to show us how to do this correctly, but we'll also show you some classic mistakes. Down here at the wonderful Weymouth and Portland Sailing Academy, our experts are out in the bay, ready to give you a real taste of life in the fast lane. But it doesn't end there. We've also got some great action from some of the world's premier events, showing you how the top guys cope with handling their boats at an international level. Boat balance, boat trim and sail trim are the most important concepts to perfect for each point of sailing, but they're also the ones we tend to forget. Boat balance is all about sailing your boat with the optimum amount of heel, whether you're on a beat, a reach or a run. Boat trim looks at where your body should be placed in relation to the front or the back of the boat, depending on the sea state, wind conditions and of course your point of sailing. And sail trim is all about setting your sails for cracking boat speed. So let's take a closer look. Beating. Getting yourselves into upwind mode and sailing to the top of the course as quickly as possible. We're thinking about trimming our sails for maximum power, using our body weight for boat balance, and of course positioning it correctly for optimum trim. Let's take a look now at Nick and his laser, sailing here on relatively flat water short chop. In these conditions, we need to trim the boat for maximum waterline length, fore and aft. That is the bow of the boat and the stern of the boat not being dug into the water too much. So this is excellent fore and aft trim here. Also boat balance. That is, the boat is not heeling too much to leeward, which would make the boat slip sideways over the water. So it's good to see him hiking hard here, trying to keep the boat as flat as possible for maximum power. Also here, the dagger board is all the way down. Looking at the transom, we've got a clear exit there of water coming off the stern of the boat, which is good, not too much disturbance there. Also here, good use of the hands. Both the main sheet hand and the tiller extension hand being kept close together so that we can put the main sheet into the tiller hand when we want to make adjustments to either the kicking strap or the Cunningham. That's good, excellent work. Here we've got a few bumps in the mainsail, what we call speed bumps. Don't worry about those too much, as we'll refer to those later. Good to see here, excellent action using the tiller, helping to luff the boat over the waves and bear away down the back of them. This is very good use of the rudder to maintain boat speed through these short waves, choppy conditions. Tow strap length here excellent, so we can hike out harder and realistically keep the boat as flat as possible in this wind speed. Good use of the main sheet here, easing the main sheet and the guss so the boat doesn't heel too much. Generally speaking, great performance here with the boat handling techniques, both boat balance, boat trim, very good, keeping the boat maximum power all the time. Here comes Pip and Harriet in their 420. In these conditions, they've got to work really hard together as a team so as to punch the boat through these short chop waves whilst going to windward. This overhead shot shows how Pippa is really playing the main sheet there in the guss. And here we've got Harriet really hiking hard on that wire, on her toes to get extra leverage out to windward. Good use here of the body weight, both fore and aft, and also as regards the boat balance, not letting the boat heel too much to leeward. Good use in this overhead shot here of Harriet on the gunnel, moving fore and aft on that wire to help lift and drop the bow as waves go under the boat, and obviously working the boat very hard to keep maximum power at all times. So we've seen some really good boat handling techniques here. The two girls working very hard and communicating together to maintain maximum hull speed throughout. Chris and Alan flying along here now in their 29er. Here we need to really work together now with speed of reaction, as we can see that Alan is taking control of the main sheet whilst Chris focuses on steering the boat. The boat now being kept balanced very well, not heeling too much to leeward for maximum power. Fore and aft trim here, again we're looking at almost maximum waterline length so that we don't get the transom dragging in the water too much. Really good technique here, especially with Alan on the main sheet, really working that hard in the gusts and the lulls. Out on his toes here for maximum leverage out to windward so that can be transferred to the boat so that we are all times going at maximum hull speed. Chris here working obviously the tiller, working hard at steering the boat through the waves here. Very important now to focus on every wave approaching that weather bow, luffing up to meet it, bearing away down the back of it, and making sure that our sail trim is kept at the optimum throughout. Notice here also that half twist around to windward with Alan's body so that we can work here on our toes a lot better. Looking at this overall shot here now, we can see how Chris has worked his body weight slightly further forward so as to keep this transom from dragging too much in the water. A real clean exit there off the stern. That's really good. Here both helm and crew have been keeping themselves very close together there on the water. That helps the bow to pitch more readily over the waves. That looks really nice. Good techniques here all round. Helm and crew talking to each other all the time so as to maintain maximum hull speed. Really working the boat well and using the sail trim for the wind speed and the sea state. And we can see here also both helm and crew really working their bodies, their kinetics, to keep the boat as flat as possible. Got to keep the string out the water though, bit of string there hanging over the side. We don't want that trailing in the water, but overall here we've seen a really good performance from these two working together as a team. Reaching the fastest point of sail and probably the most fun. Lots of emphasis here on sail and boat trim, so what are we waiting for? Back with Nick again in the laser, working very hard here at his boat balance, not allowing the boat to heel too much to leeward, keeping the boat upright for maximum power. That's really good. Also working hard now at his fore and aft trim, making sure that his body weight is just slightly further back in the boat to help the bow lift over the waves, especially when you want to bear away in a gust. It's important to keep that lee bow off the water so that we can bear away with the least amount of rudder movement. Good use here also of the tiller extension, main sheet hand working close together there so as to maintain maximum power. Here we've got Nick looking at the waves approaching the bow, also looking over his shoulder occasionally for where the breeze is and the gusts coming down the race area. As a gust approaches, he wants to bear away and go with that gust for maximum hull speed, and then as the lull arrives to luff up towards the wind to maintain boat speed. So he's got to really focus hard here on boat balance, boat trim and sailing the boat through and around the waves, looking for maximum speed at all times. Basically, we've got to remember that in the gusts, bear away, go with the gusts. In the lulls, come back up to maintain the apparent wind across the mainsail and maintain boat speed. Daggerboard position. Make sure it's raised just enough so that when you get the gust, you can bear away and go with it. If the board is too far down in gusty conditions, then most certainly we'll end up broaching with the boom end hitting the water and the boat spinning up to windward. Excellent use here of the main sheet hand and the tiller hand working closely together. Nick's focusing here very closely now on what the waves are doing and also the wind speed. Just look at him go. Here he is flying along on the most exciting point of sailing, really having good time. Good focus, good concentration, maximum use of body weight and sail trim, boat balance, boat trim, all these points being brought together. Really good technique. Back with our 420 now, and we've got 3 sails to consider here. Pippa working the mainsail and the jib, and Harriet focusing totally on the luff area of the spinnaker. We've got to work together now very well as a team to maintain maximum hull speed whilst on this reaching leg. Harriet will be focusing all the time on body weight, fore and aft on the gunwale, as well as inboard and outboard to maintain the boat balance. We want to keep the boat as flat as possible on this reaching leg for maximum power. Also, Harriet and Pippa together will work their body weight fore and aft to have the correct boat trim. We don't want the bow to be coming too high off the water, and we don't want the transom digging in too much. So as the wind speed changes and the sea state changes, so their body weight must move fore and aft in the boat. Good action here from both the helm and the crew, working the main sheet and the spinnaker sheet together. Pippa there looking for the gusts approaching the boat. As a gust arrives, she'll then want to bear away and go with that gust. And most certainly as the lulls come, she'll want to obviously come back towards the wind direction to keep the boat at maximum power. Here we can see the 2 girls now working hard for maximum speed. Harriet here looking at the curl on the spinnaker luff. As that luff just curls there, she will strike the sheet to prevent it from collapsing. Needs total concentration on the spinnaker, whilst Pippa concentrates fully on the waves, the main sheet trim and the jib trim. Good to see here, excellent teamwork all round. Look at them fly along now as they get that gust. Really good boat speed here. Just goes to show how good the girls can be in a breeze. Even better than the lads at times. Running, sailing down the course with the wind behind you. Some very different techniques come into play here, so let's take a closer look. Once we've rounded that windward mark and we start the running leg, our concentration levels have got to stay at their maximum. Here there's lots to be gained on the running leg by using the correct techniques. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for boat balance, boat trim, sail trim, using the waves, using the gusts, using the lulls. Good technique here, watching Nick going down the running leg, working the main sheet, using his body weight to maintain the boat stability, both the thwartships in boat balance terms as well as fore and aft. Here we can see his body weight fairly well back to help lift the bow over the waves. He's also looking for gusts, feeling the gusts coming in from behind. And as the gust hits the boat, he'll bear away to go with that gust for as long as possible, going down this running leg like a snake, bearing away in the gusts and then coming back up in the lulls. Got to work hard here also at maintaining the boat balance. What we cannot do is have the boat coming over to windward too much, risking the chance of a capsize to windward, and obviously not allowing it to heel too much to leeward. where the boom end might touch the water. Taking the main sheet here direct from the block, using that in conjunction with his tiller hand to really work this sail downwind. Really good techniques here. Centreboard position, not too high. If it's too high, we run the risk of capsizing to windward, especially in the medium to upper wind range. And likewise, we don't want it too low. Otherwise, we could find ourselves tripping over the board and equally running a high risk of capsizing. Here, back at the Youth Worlds in Poland, we've got Sarah Steyart here. Again, total concentration, total focus. This is really good. Look at how she's using the main sheet. Tiller extension in front of the chest. Look at where the dagger board is, so that we can maintain boat stability. If that board was too high, the boat would be rolling downwind too much. High risk of capsizing, especially to windward. Here she's focusing also with her body weight quite forward here to help lift the transom out the water. Very good technique here. Came up there slightly in the lull, going down this wave here, bearing away, going with that wave. Really, really good techniques here. Good to see her concentration levels so high and working that boat downwind all the time. Good work. 420 down the running leg now, 3 sails to worry about, and Harriet will focus purely on that spinnaker. Concentration levels here at the maximum. As soon as it curls, she's got to strike the sheet, ease the guy slightly further forward. And as the boat comes up towards the wind direction, obviously guy forward, sheet on a bit more. Pippa here working the main sheet now in the gusts to promote the plane of the boat downwind. Got to be very careful though with the rules. Normal rules when they apply, it's only 1 pump per wave or increase in wind velocity. So be very careful about that. Here you can see the girls also working hard as regards their boat balance. Keeping the boat as flat as possible now on this running leg for maximum power. Harriet there moving further forward to help get the transom off the water and to get the bow to go down the face of a wave. Good technique here by both girls. Centreboard position. Make sure it's not too high up. If it's too high, big risk of capsizing the boat to windward. And if it's too low, big risk of the boat broaching and the boom end hitting the water. So the centreboard should be as near as damn it halfway up or just slightly above. Or what we normally say, enough to stand on once you've capsized. Really working the boat well together, the girls here. Focused all the time. Concentration levels at their maximum to gain the advantage downwind. Also, Pippa here will be feeling and looking for the gust. As the gust hits the boat, she'll be wanting to bear away and go with that gust. Or when she starts planing down the face of a wave, she'll be wanting to bear away and stay on that wave as long as possible. Only coming up in the lulls or when the bow is approaching the back of a wave. That's when she'll come back towards the wind so as not to run into the back of a wave and stop the boat. Here now back at the Youth Worlds, we're looking at the top Aussie pair working the boat downwind in slightly lighter conditions here. The crew has got the guy in hand trimming that pole, keeping it at right angles to the Windex. And the jib again nicely eased so as not to stall the wind passing through the slot area behind the mainsail. Got to work hard here again at fore and aft trim so as not to have the bow too deep or the transom too low in the water. Good teamwork here by these guys, working the boat nicely in these conditions. Asymmetrics, like our 29er, go about sailing downwind in a very different way, and the techniques that go with it are fairly spectacular too. Here we see Alan and Chris reaching away downwind, really flying along nicely. Here concentration levels now again at their maximum, well focused at all times with respect to their boat balance, not heeling to leeward too much, and most certainly their boat trim fore and aft. Now we've got that Jenica up, we can see Alan there well back on the wire, right on Chris's shoulder to help lift this lee bow off the water. because as we get this gust now, Chris will want to bear away, and to do that in these boats the lee bow cannot be in contact with the water. If it is, all we'll do here as the gust hits the boat is end up broaching and capsizing to leeward. Really good to see Chris here playing the main nicely, and Alan here really working the Jenica. Look at them flying along. This is awesome sailing. Brilliant technique. Working those sails very hard together, downwind. As we get out of the sub 6 knot zone, boat balance relies on you keeping the boat upright. Yes, we're talking about hiking hard and trapezing effectively. Hiking hard is painful, it's a fact of sailing, but perfecting the technique and using the right gear does help. When it's windy, the basic rules are, the further out you get your weight, the faster you will go. This sounds simple, but in reality it really stings, so a good set of hiking pants can help reduce the pain. Your thigh and tummy muscles are key to hiking hard, so cycling and sit-ups will certainly help. In medium winds and on runs, the amount you hike will vary. Watch the wind and anticipate when you need your weight in and out. For laser sailors, there is one other trick to help you out with hiking. Over to you, Nick.
One of the fundamental aspects of making your laser go fast is boat balance. A lot of the top laser sailors use an adjustable toe strap such as this one here. This allows you to bring your body in and out, therefore keeping your boat balanced in different wind conditions. If you tighten it up, such as I've just done, it brings your body in, stops your bum dragging in the water. That's good for light winds and on reaches. Obviously if you loosen it off, such as that, it allows you to get your body further out, allowing you to hike harder in stronger winds.
But it's not all about hiking. Trapezing is key to keeping our other boats upright, something these two know a fair bit about.
Generally trapezing, I think that the biggest things for Simon and I are to try and be on our tiptoes whenever we can, so we're standing as tall as possible. So with that in mind as well, trying to push your shoulders into the top of your harness as hard as possible and standing big and tall all the time.
Trapezing is all about balance. The further out I can get, the more leverage I get, but at the same time I've got to be careful that if I hit a wave or the boat accelerates or decelerates, I'm going to stay on the side of the boat.
Looking at Alan's technique on the wire here now, good to see his feet close together on the gunnel there, also on his toes for maximum leverage. Looking here now for the gusts approaching the boat, trimming that mainsail all the time. Really good technique whilst going to windward. Harriet here, again, forward leg in tension, feet fairly close together, on her toes on the gunnel for the extra leverage when we get the gusts. Use the forward hand to support the neck and the head area, especially once settled down on a tank. She can also use that forward hand for lowering herself on the wire as the gusts come towards the boat, and also for raising herself on the wire so she's not hitting the water, especially in the bigger waves. Really good all-round technique here. Forward leg in tension to stop her going too far forward on the gunnel. Excellent work all round.
When we're getting ready for attack, first thing that we think about is what we're going to be tacking into, whether there's any waves or a lull or increase in breeze that we're going to be arriving at as we go through the tack.
I'm trying to think about the balance of the boat as we go into the tack, whether the boat's heeling to windward or to leeward, and the trim of the sails. Exactly the same on the exit to tack. Again, I'm thinking about how much weight I need to put on it and where to trim the sails to get the boat back up to speed as quickly as possible.
With our asymmetric team on the water again, looking specifically at tacking the boat. Got to get set up for this tack nicely now. Look for the waves to tack the boat. We don't want to be hitting a wave as we turn the corner. Here we saw Alan there give Chris the main sheet. That was very good. Squeezing the main sheet on as you go towards the eye of the wind, and then after the tack, Chris then bringing it back on again before handing it back to Alan. Very good technique. Here again getting set up, using body weight here to roll the boat over. That was good. And then as soon as we've tacked the boat, body weight straight back out on the new windward side to flatten the boat down and keep the boat speed up, accelerating out of the tack. Here again, getting set up. Main sheet is with Chris. He's using it there to maintain the boat speed through the turn. Excellent work. Getting set up again, ready to tack the boat. Use of the handle there by Alan to pull the boat over, straight out on the new handle, bring the boat upright and then hook on whilst you're out there. Good use again, roll tacking the boat. Good to see Alan there on the wire, straight out to keep the boat as flat as possible after the tack. Looking from this overhead shot now, we can see when Alan gives Chris the main sheet. And here now Chris pulls it in, keeps the boat turning using as little rudder as possible. That was good. Alan straight out on that wire on the handle and hooking on when he was out there, and then taking the main sheet back off Chris. Really good technique here. It's so important in these tacking manoeuvres to actually visualise exactly what you're going to do before you do them. Then you stand a chance of the manoeuvre being carried out correctly with a nice smooth roll tack, with good speed going into the tack and equally good speed on the way out. Well, we're back with Pippa and Harriet in the tacking mode, and most certainly good to see both girls there roll tacking the boat, crossing the boat together and bringing it upright on the new tack together. Very important also there, we saw Harriet going out on the handle, which was excellent, and then hooking on once she was out there. That was good. Getting set up for these tacks, Pippa there got to pull that main sheet in as the boat turns through the eye of the wind, then ease an armful and then bring it back in as Harriet goes back out on the wire. It's also very important for Harriet to make sure that jib is uncleated as she comes into the boat. That puts some twist into the upper jib leech to help the bow come towards the eye of the wind, which is good. Excellent teamwork there. Again, we saw Harriet straight out on that handle, and Pippa there needs to just go slightly further forward in the boat after the tack. She did that also to reach the barber hauler and set the barber hauler as Harriet is out on the wire. Nice roll tack here again, both Pippa and Harriet crossing the boat together. Once we've settled down on a tack, it's important to look at your boat trim and your boat balance. There we saw Pippa doing the barber hauler again whilst Harriet was out on the wire. Here now we can focus on the waves again, approaching the weather bow and working the boat to windward. Getting set up ready for the next tack. Again, communication. Pippa's calling it. In Harriet comes, straight out on that wire, flattening the boat down and maintaining the speed throughout the tacking manoeuvre. Good work here by both girls. But it is important to keep this communication going all the time. Looking now towards the final tack, visualisation. I can't emphasise enough about visualising what you're going to do before you do it, and then it stands a good chance of being an excellent manoeuvre. We're back with Nick now and looking at him tacking his laser. Need to visualise here on the waves and what they're doing to the bow of the boat. He'll use these waves to turn the boat as quickly as possible. Good use of the body weight there, stayed on the windward side until the stem of the boat had just gone through the eye of the wind, and then under that boom really smartly out on the new tack, flattening the boat down to maintain maximum speed out of the tacking manoeuvre. Here again, good roll over to windward, under that boom, straight out, forward foot under that tow strap, straight into the hiking mode. That was good. Watch these waves now. As soon as the bow starts to lift, turn the boat up to the eye of the wind, let that wave go to the mast area and bear away down the back of it. Good use there also of hand tiller to main sheet. As the boat goes towards the eye of the wind, hand stays near the end of the extension, tacks the boat, brings the main sheet back in and then swaps hands over after the tack. Really good manoeuvre. Once you've settled down, got to focus again on boat balance, boat trim, boat speed. Look for the next wave, tiller away, cross the boat, sit on the new windward side, main sheet hand to tiller hand, swap over, keep the boat flat, maximum power out of the tack. That was really nice. Here again we see this hand coordination from the tiller extension, main sheet hand to tiller extension, swap over, settle down. So important now, obviously, when tacking the laser, to really focus now on using waves to help turn the boat. Really work on using your upper body weight to rotate the boat, and obviously the use of the main sheet.
In the 49er, we're generally looking for a flat patch to jibe so the boat's going as fast as possible. But in most boats, like your 420, your Optimist, your Laser, you'd be looking to surf down a wave to keep the boat going as quickly as possible so that the pressure in the sails is as light as it can be when the boom does come across.
I'm concentrating on the spinnaker, how that's being trimmed as it goes through, and also looking at the bow to keep an eye on waves and how they may affect the rate of turn of the boat.
Let's now take a look at Nick here jibing his laser. So important to concentrate on this manoeuvre having made the decision to do it. He'll be looking here to bring that mainsail across very quickly as he turns the boat away from the wind direction. Rolls the boat over, flicks that main sheet as he crosses the boat. This stops that main sheet going over the end of the boom or catching over the corner of the transom. Looking at it now from above, here he goes to the bear away, flicks that main sheet across as he crosses the boat and sits on the new windward side, powering out of the manoeuvre. Here again, just see how he gets himself set up, looking ready to jibe. Brings that main sheet in, little roll over with the tow strap, flicks the sheet, and it's cleared the end of the boom and the transom corner. Excellent. Know where the dagger board is, halfway up, halfway down, enough to stand on once you've capsized. Exactly the right place to keep it. Setting himself up again, ready for the next jibe. Looking now to bear away, bit of main sheet in, a little flick of it there to stop it going over the end of that boom. Excellent manoeuvre. Very important now for, again, Nick to visualise what he wants to do before he does it, so that again it stands a chance of actually happening. That was an excellent jibe, rolling the boat into the jibe and flattening the boat at the end of it. Watching Harriet and Pippa now with their jibing manoeuvres in the 420. Very important again here to visualise what you're going to do before you do it. Also, communication between the two girls needs to be spot on. Going into the bear away here now, Pippa takes the guy and the sheet. Harriet brings the mainsail over using the kicking strap and then goes for the pole, getting the pole off the mast onto the new guy and then straight out and then back onto the mast. While she's doing that, Pippa needs to be filling the spinnaker and then waiting obviously for Harriet to be ready to go back out on the wire. Jib here a little bit undersheeted. Pippa there needs to just lean forward and sheet that jib slightly harder. Here again going to a jibe, bearing away, ease the main, square the pole. Oh, we let that jib there go all together there. Not a great loss in boat speed, but it's so important to try and preset that jib prior maybe to the jibing manoeuvre, and therefore that's in the right place after the jibe. Once we've settled down again here, Harriet hooked on, out on the wire, and now Pippa can bring the mainsail back on and power the boat back up again ready for the next leg. On the running leg now, before jibing the boat here, we've got to again make sure that the spinnaker is full throughout the jibing manoeuvre. Shouldn't have let it collapse there. Pippa stood up in the back of the boat. She can take the guy and the sheet and keep the spinnaker full throughout the jibing manoeuvre. So we need to work at that. Harriet there, straight to the mast. Pearl onto the new guy, straight out. Once she's done that, she can settle down, take the new guy and the sheet, and Pippa can settle down, trimming the main. Things can go wrong whilst jibing sometimes, and here we've got the guy in the Pearl and we push it out. But in the act of doing that, we've actually tripped it and therefore lost the guy out the end of the Pearl. So important now for Pippa to steer the boat underneath a full spinnaker whilst Harriet gets it sorted. We won't lose too much here, but it is important for the teamwork to really work together now. Also, whilst the boat is settling down on this running leg, important to now reset the jib and to refocus on keeping that Pearl at right angles to the Windex. Jibing and asymmetric is all about smoothness and speed. You can see how our duo ensure they're travelling at Mach 10 before attempting the jibe, and the kite remains full throughout the whole manoeuvre. Setting up for the jibe is so important. Communication between helm and crew is paramount. Here we are, bearing away, changing course away from the wind direction, and bring that mainsail over. Both Chris and Alan there crossing the boat at the same time and working together very well as a team. Here the turn a little bit slow there with the turn and coming out of it a little bit deep. That's what makes it more difficult to fill the Jenica coming onto the new tack. It's important to have a nice even semicircular turn, but not a handbrake turn. Here again, a nice little manoeuvre, nice turn. The Jenica clew coming across the centre line and around the forestay at about the same time as the mainsail actually crosses the transom. Setting up now ready for the next jibe. Here we are at maximum power again, and as we bear away, we've got to now use our body weight here to help turn the boat with the least amount of rudder. Chris bears away, jibes the boat, Alan straight across out on the wire, powering the boat up again, ready for the next leg. Here we go with Chris and Simon now into this jibe. The faster you're going, the safer you are. This really looks good. Once you've settled down on the new tack, focus again on straight line speed, using the gusts, bearing away in the gusts, coming up in the lulls. Here we go again, bear away, coming together, cross the boat together, clue of that Jenica round the forestay as the boom end crosses the centre line. Really nice, both out on the wire together and max power being achieved straight away on the new tack. Before going into a jibing manoeuvre, it's so important to get the communication right. Here, maybe a breakdown in communication, and we had to think again about going into that manoeuvre. There's a great saying in jibing manoeuvres, he who hesitates swims. Thank God that wasn't the case this time, as that water looks very cold from here.
When you're two-sail jibing, it's pretty similar to a normal jibe. You want to get the boom across when the boat is going as fast as possible. Often it's the case if your teammate can help you by bringing the boom across while you're crossing the boat, that can help to bring the boom over when the boat is dead downwind, rather than having to steer a long way through the breeze to get the boom over.
Two-sail jibing is very similar to tacking. I'm thinking about the balance of the boat going into it, where my weight needs to be. As soon as the boat's beginning its turn, I'm legging it across, pulling the boom across, ready to position my weight where it needs to be on the exit of the jibe.
Even if we're only two-sail jibing, it's very important to communicate with each other as to exactly what we're going to do. Here, Chris will have told Alan, stand by to jibe. So he's ready on the wire to come in. As they bear away, ease the mainsail comes across. We both get out on the new windward side together. Alan straight back on the wire and away on the new tack. Again here, Chris takes the main sheet, bears away, literally turns the corner, nice even semicircle, and powers the boat away again. An excellent manoeuvre with the two sails. Hoisting the spinnaker at the top of the course requires good boat balance, good communication and excellent coordination. Pippa and Harriet now coming into a bear away set. Harriet on the pole, up on and down all on as soon as possible, and pushes the pole out. Don't overease the jib here, which was good, as Pippa then can hoist the spinnaker. As soon as it's hoisted, Harriet goes for the sheet, onto the wire, straight out, maximum power. Pippa now can just adjust that jib slightly, look slightly, that's it, she's just eased it nicely. And off they go, powering down this reaching leg. Bearing away now for a windward hoist. Ideally here, Harriet maybe could have grabbed most of the spinnaker out of the bag and thrown it forward. That would have saved it going between the mast and the forestay. But Pippa did well there to then sheet it and pull it around the forestay whilst Harriet was putting out the pole. And as soon as that has been done, Harriet will then grab the sheet off Pippa, straight out on the wire, and again we're now powered up down this reaching leg. Pippa there just got to reach forward a bit to trim the jib correctly, and off we go. That was good. Approaching the windward mark again, we're going to bear away here, go for a windward hoist. Harriet comes in to the boat, and literally here could have maybe just got hold of the spinnaker, thrown it forward whilst Pippa was hoisting it. Pippa then can fill it using the guy and sheet in hand, steering with her knees. That's really nice, whilst Harriet does the pole. If Harriet gets a problem with the pole, obviously that's not too much of a problem, in so much as Pippa just steers underneath a full spinnaker whilst that's sorted out. As soon as it's sorted, Harriet straight onto the guy and the sheet, and we settle down onto this running leg. That's good teamwork. We're back at the World Youth Championships now, watching the Belgian girls. Good hoist there, very fast hoist. Got it filled nicely and off they go. Here watching the Australian girls bearing away, going for the hoist now. When you're on a dead run, normally when you hoist that kite, you can get the pole on the guy, push it outboard and forward at the same time, helps it fill quickly. That was nice. Settle down as quickly as possible. Oh, what's that flag at the top of the mast? Oh, they must have won the event already. This is their celebration race on the last day. In our asymmetrics, there are fewer strings to pull, so to get the advantage here, speed is of the essence. And here's someone way more qualified than I am to tell you all about the technique on a specially designed hoist machine.
The key to a fast kite hoisting job is to pull as fast and as hard as you can. However, there are a few specific techniques that can make this manoeuvre as efficient as possible. The key to this manoeuvre is good rope handling, as each hand pulls the rope up and the next hand moves in to pick up the next handful. This hand releases the rope cleanly. Release, up and release. Next handful, release.
And by practicing good rope handling, this is exactly what you'll be doing. A hoist in 4 seconds flat and not a tangle in sight. The same applies to our 29er team. Here both Chris and Alan getting ready for the hoist. Got to be careful here not to over-ease the jib now, as this will cause a lot of friction as we try and hoist that Jenica. Also make sure that the downhaul line is completely free. Here we're away now at maximum power down the next leg. Good teamwork all round. So, we've nailed the basic tacks and jibes, but what about the mark roundings? Loads to cover here, so let's get started. Marks are the transition points on the racecourse, where we shift gears into different modes of sailing. The manoeuvre itself can get you the upper hand when racing. This trapezoid course contains everything we're likely to tackle when racing, so pay attention. At the start, it's a beat up to the windward mark, and our chap opts to approach on the starboard ley line. From here it's a bear away onto a beam reach for mark number 2. At the second mark he bears away again onto the run with the wind dead astern. At the bottom it's a jibe round the leeward mark and back into the upwind mode to our second windward mark. Final bear away of the course. He cracks off onto the last run and races back down. By the bottom he throws in a jibe and rounds up onto a beam reach straight to the finish line. Great work. These courses vary depending on the event, but it can't hurt to learn it all, so let's start at the top.
When we're approaching the windward mark, we think about whether we're lifted, whether we're headed, whether there's any pressure on either side of the course that we want to think about, where the other boats are, which way they're thinking about going, and whether we can get any ideas of which way they're thinking about going, and also whether the course has got any bias, if the run is more biased to one jibe than the other.
Approaching the windward mark, I'm thinking about the timing of releasing the controls and setting the boat up for the bear away and subsequent downwind leg.
Watching Nick now approaching the windward mark on starboard tack, he's getting set up ready for the bear away. Things to be thinking about: easing the Cunningham, popping the kicker, main sheet ready for running. Centreboard up slightly if you can in the light to medium wind range. Also here now, as he bears away, he's got to really use his body weight now to help turn the boat. Hike the boat over to windward, help the lee bow to escape off the water. So we now need less rudder to turn the boat. Here again, approaching the windward mark. Preparations for the rounding. Ease the Cunningham off. Be ready to pop the kicker a touch. Main sheet ready for running. As soon as you can, bear away, hike out hard, bear away. Use your body weight to really turn the boat and ease that mainsail. Once again here, approaching the windward mark. Think about what you're going to do before you actually do it. All the preparations ready for that rounding. Cunningham eased, kicker off, centreboard race slightly if possible, and then really ease that main. Here again, approaching the windward mark. The Cunningham's gone there, kicker's gone, that's excellent. Don't be too keen on easing that main sheet. Really use that body weight now, straight into a jibe and accelerating away from the mark. Approaching the mark now on port tack. Got to tack around the buoy here now, as well as then go into immediate bear away mode, so he can ease the Cunningham and the kicker before the tack here even. Rolls the boat round, that's excellent. Big hike out to windward now, balance the boat over to windward, really dump that main sheet to get off onto that running leg. Coming up to the mark again on port. Kicker's eased, Cunningham eased, all ready for the turning. Main sheet ready for running. Really hike out hard, here he goes. Boat balance to windward. Excellent manoeuvre. Here's Nick now at the Youth Worlds in Poland. Again, all the preparations for the rounding. Daggerboard nicely up there in time in the light to medium wind range. Cunningham eased, kicker popped, and a nice even turn around that windward mark. That was excellent. Away now in clear wind. Cross to the girls now. Here's Charlotte in her laser radial. Again at the Youth Worlds. All the preparations for the rounding here. We're on to a beam reach now, so just need to maybe ease the kicker a little bit. Cunningham off all the way and raise the daggerboard just slightly for this reaching leg. That was good. Here's Sarah now, just coming to the windward mark. Again, preparations for the rounding. Cunningham, kicker, daggerboard, that's good. Watching Pippa and Harriet now coming into the windward mark, ready for this bear away. Got to ease the jib, ease the main, don't over ease the jib though, ready for the spinnaker hoist. Here we've got a windward hoist anyway. As soon as it's up there, Pippa's got to fill that spinnaker whilst Harriet is doing the pole. That's good teamwork there, that looked quite good. Had to move back there, that was a good call by Pippa. Gust of breeze there, so she called Harriet back whilst keeping the spinnaker full. That was excellent. Settled down now, Harriet on the guy, that was good. Coming into the windward mark again, in readiness for this bear away. Kicker needs to be eased slightly. Don't over ease the jib, ready for the hoist. Just keep that jib maybe slightly tighter. Ready for this spinnaker hoist. Again, it looks like a windward one. but the jib has been over eased there. Once the spinnaker is up, Pippa, get that guy, get that sheet, that's good, well done. And she kept that full nicely, whilst Harriet does the purl. Good teamwork by both girls, excellent. Once you've settled down, just cleat that jib in its proper place and then start working the boat downwind. Excellent work. Watching the Australian girls now coming towards the windward mark on the starboard ley line and getting ready now for the hoist. Things to be thinking about here, obviously clipping the guy onto the pole, most certainly popping the kicker before the bear away. Cunningham can be completely off on the main. All these things we've got to think about prior to the rounding. Approaching the windward mark now, and the helm just getting the main sheet ready for easing, and also obviously the kicker will be popped slightly. Here we go, ready for the bear away. Looks as though we're going on to a short reaching leg there across to a spreader mark, but lots of preparations on this short leg here to make ready for the hoist. Looking at the boys now at the windward mark, big bear away there, not over ease the jib, that's good. That means you can pull the spinnaker up with the least amount of friction. Watching the British boys now coming to the windward mark, laying it nicely, ease the kicker slightly, straight into a roll jibe to start this running leg, that's good. Very important now on this running leg to actually keep clear wind. As soon as you've got the kite up and settled down, look at obviously where the opposition are and make sure you've got clear wind on the edges rather than sitting in a blanket of wind down the middle of the track. Nice roll tack there by the Austrian ferrets, that was good. Good to see now use of body weight here by all these youngsters in roll jibing the boat. Excellent work throughout. Back with our 29er team now, Chris and Alan here approaching the windward mark on starboard tack. The communication will be going between them now as to exactly what's going to happen at this mark, whether it'll be a bear away set or a jibe set. Here too, we've got to think about this manoeuvre. Alan will give the main sheet back to Chris as he then dives back into the boat there to hoist the Jenica. Really get that Jenica up as fast as possible. Chris maintains the boat balance using the main, and as soon as it's full, Alan's back out there on the wire and they're away at full speed. That's good. Again, coming into this windward mark, the communication will be going on between the two of them as to exactly what they're going to do. Don't over ease this jib too much, look, you'll start pulling the foot of the jib up with the Jenica, so be very careful about that. Very quick setting of the Jenica there, that was good. And then straight back on the wire, Alan doing a good job there, filling that kite and the boat up to maximum speed as soon as possible. Here at the 49er Worlds now, the leaders looking for the jibe set. They want to be on port tack as soon as possible, running away from this windward mark. Got to be very quick here with these hoists and very quick at using your body weight to help turn the boat by hiking the boat over to windward as you roll into these jibes. Here go the German boys now, very good hoist there, and away straight into a jibe down this running leg. Here's the Olympic gold medalists here, again bearing away, very fast hoist there, that was an excellent hoist, and filling it as soon as they possibly could. Here come Chris and Simon in hot pursuit, really trying to gain places here and make up distance on the leading little group. Very fast hoist there by Simon with no tangles at all. Spinnaker full straight away. Tacking at the mark here, can obviously be a bit slow, lose a little bit of ground there with each tack, but here we are straight away, bearing away, downwind, really good hoist here. Fast hoist, get it sheeted, get it full, and off you go. But mistakes do happen, and watching Chris and Alan here for this hoist, taking a long time here to hoist this Jenica. We've got a wine glass as well, got to really sheet hard here to try and get that out, or ease the halyard very slightly. Looking at Nick now coming for the bear away, got to get that main sheet ready for easing. Really use your body weight now to keep the boat flat Ease that main faster. Ease that main faster. That was good. Well recovered. Here with the spinnaker hoist, we've over-eased the jib and the halyard wasn't uncleated. Make sure that the jib is kept sheeted on a little bit more so we don't try dragging the jib up with the spinnaker. Oh, port and starboard here, girls. Watch out, rule 10. The girl there from Lithuania should have looked before she tacked. Approaching the wing mark here. The 420 boys got to think about the manoeuvre, the turning manoeuvre, squaring that pull back and easing the main. And the centreboard can be raised now slightly more to halfway or just slightly more above the halfway position. Also be ready to ease the jib a little bit more as well, so as not to choke the slot area between the jib leech and the leeward side of the main. Here we've got to also focus on boat trim fore and aft. In these conditions, these lads could be slightly further forward in the boat. Watching the Kiwis approaching the spreader mark now. Likewise, pull back, get that pull back, ease that main sheet a little bit faster and make sure the kicker is not too tight. Got to be careful now also with the racing rules when coming into this spreader mark. As the outside windward boat, you've got to keep clear, which the Austrian boys have done. That's good. Also got to think now about clear wind down this running leg and making sure that nobody is sitting on your wind. We've also got a scenario here of windward leeward. The Turkish boat there on the inside has got all the rights. Looks as though he's clear ahead anyway now, so that's good. And the boat here on the left, as the windward boat, has got to keep clear. That is the Dutch boys here, and most certainly got to address now clear wind, the boat on the far side jibing if necessary.
At the leeward mark, we'd just be trying to get in and out of there as quick as possible. Try and avoid slowing down. At the end of the day, it's a stopping point where the fleet generally slows down, and if we can get through and out of there as fast as possible, that's the best option for us. So we'll look for possibly the mark that's got less people at it if there's a gate, but also look to come out on the lifted tack if possible and heading towards the side of the course that we'd like to go to.
Speed and timing is essential for rounding the leeward mark quickly. I'm thinking about when to drop the kite and how quickly that will take for me to be able to bring the sails on, move my weight out to windward as we round in as fast as possible way.
Watching Nick approaching this leeward mark now, Cunningham on, kicker on, board all the way down, ready for the rounding. Nice rounding manoeuvre, sheeting the main on, hiking the boat out hard with a good exit from that leeward mark. Again, just watch him coming round here. The Cunningham's already on, kicker's on, and the board is in the right position, sheeting in hand over hand, hiking hard as he rounds the buoy. Good rounding manoeuvre, straight into that windward leg. Here again, adjustments have been made for the rounding. We can see now how he's using that main sheet and tiller hand together and settling down straight away, close hauled, beginning to work the waves, maximum power on this windward leg. Here with this overhead shot, we can see how close he got to the leeward mark there with a very good exit. Had a wide entry there with a narrow exit, which was excellent. Watching the Australian boy around here, nice jibe at the buoy. Boat balance now, bring it more upright to accelerate away from the mark. That was good. Here again, we're jibing at the mark. If we can, we should try to jibe before we get to the mark, because sometimes by jibing at the mark, we can easily maybe make a mistake and therefore get a bad exit away from the buoy. The Korean boy here, jibed early, that's good. Board down, kicker on, Cunningham on, just a touch. Hand over hand sheeting of the main. Good close rounding to the mark. Bring the boat back upright, accelerate away from it. That was good. Careful now here with the rules. Lots of boats here, clear ahead, clear astern of each other. Got to remain so. And as you're rounding this mark now, be very careful not to hit the transom of the boat in front of you. Here now we've got another rounding coming up. Daggerboard there was not all the way down in the Norwegian boat prior to the rounding, which it should have been. Got to be careful now also when taking a penalty near a mark so as not to infringe those that are still racing. Watching the 29er team coming in now to the leeward mark at pace. Got to be fast here at getting rid of that Jenica, ready for the rounding manoeuvre. Chris keeping the boat balanced nicely on the main. As soon as he's rounded there, he's going to give it back to Alan on the wire. That's good. Alan now in charge of the mainsail. A good manoeuvre. Let's look at it now in slow motion. Here we are coming in at pace. Alan coming in off the wire. Chris controlling the balance of the boat with the main sheet. Alan really going now for a fast takedown here and getting rid of the pearl. Chris lines the boat up, ready for the wide entry and the narrow exit. Alan ready on the wire, out he goes, flattening the boat, accelerating away from that mark. As soon as he's settled there, Chris gives him the main sheet back. That's good. Excellent rounding manoeuvre. Well done, team. Here now we're coming up for a jibe drop. We've jibed the boat, we're dropping the Jenica, got to get rid of it quickly, got to get rid of that pearl. Chris brings in the main as we round that mark. Alan goes out on the wire, takes the main sheet from Chris. Another good exit from the boy. At the 49er Worlds here, more roundings of that leeward mark, plenty of action here. Chris and Simon here, good clean rounding of that boy. Need to now look for clear wind and move on. Here we come now down to the leeward mark, getting ready to drop the spinnaker. Get rid of the pearl first, and Pippa there keeping the spinnaker full whilst Harriet gets that away. Get all of the luff of the spinnaker, pull it down as quick as you can, and the rest in on top. Pippa now on the main sheet, sheeting it in, nice rounding there, bringing the boat upright. Harriet out on the wire as we leave that leeward mark clear astern. Good rounding. Getting ready for this drop now. Got to be communicating with each other, talking to each other about what to do. Here we are now, Harriet getting rid of the pearl. Pippa could be keeping the spinnaker full still if she was stood up in the boat. Harriet gets hold of the kite, should be going down the luff more with the rest in on top. That means we can guarantee not being twisted the next time it's hoisted. Jibing at the buoy here makes for a more difficult rounding, as we can see here. We're now down pace with the boat, so always try and jibe before you get to the mark. Watching the 420s here at the Youth Worlds leeward mark rounding. Again, the South African boat there came in too tight to the buoy, made a very handbrake turn round that mark and a slow exit. Here too, we're too close to it maybe initially, jibbing too tight too soon. So we need to obviously work the jib and the mainsail together on that mark rounding. Well for that. Here quickly, don't argue now, sort it out later. Even though you've got the right of way, you cannot have collisions at this stage. Oh my God, what's going on here? The Norwegians not having a good day. Or up now with the Spanish boat rounding here. Oh, stalled out the rudder blade there. A handbrake turn. They've lost control of the. Here come Simon, a little bit neater rounding there. That's a lot better. Oh my God, that's a swallow dive there. 10 out of 10. We're straight back out to the race area now to look at the final mark of this section. And here the French boys are jibing at the mark, which makes for a fairly untidy rounding here now. Need to get that spinnaker sorted very quickly, especially if there's boats close astern of you that have already jibed early. Here again the Croatian boat struggling now, jibing at the buoy. The Australian team a lot quicker there with their jibe, stand every chance of powering over the Croatian boat. Croatians have got it sorted though, that's good. Don't get too low on this short reaching leg. You can see by getting low it's dead easy to lose the wind and let people sail over the top of you. Here with the next group we can see they're already on port tack with the pearls all sorted, ready for this short reach to the finishing line. It's so important to try and be able to do this. It makes for a much better leeward mark rounding. All set up ready for that short leg and ready to defend your wind should anybody start to attack it on your weather side. Make sure that the centreboard is in the right place, halfway up or down. and that the kicking strap isn't too tight, especially if it's the medium to upper wind range. Here the Italians will struggle there, trying to sort that one out before the finishing line. Good rounding here by the Czechs, that's looking good. Settle down quickly here now. Great manoeuvre. With your boat handling techniques, practice makes perfect. Visualise what you are going to do before you do it, and then you stand a chance of everything going smoothly in the boat. What does it take to make a boat go fast in a straight line across both the wind range and the sea state? This is a very important aspect of the sport, especially for those racing ferrets who want to go fast in a straight line. There are loads of controls on your boat, and if you tweak them correctly you can improve your boat speed. These all work independently, so the trick is to understand what each control does and the rules that apply for the day's conditions. But more important than playing with the strings is recording and calibrating your findings.
It's important that when you found fast settings or you're using your class standard settings, that you calibrate those on your boat. That way, in the heat of a race, you can be confident that when you pull those strings to their marks, the boat is set up and ready to go quickly. You can then get on with concentrating on the rest of the race.
Do you ever feel that your boat's working against you? Well, for those boats that have a variable mast heel position, it might well be. Lee helm is when your boat wants to bear away, and weather helm is the opposite, where you're fighting it from rounding up. If you get either of these, then check that your mast heel is bang in the right place. Here's an easy test to check that yours is set up correctly. Sail your boat close hauled in a force 2 and let go of the tiller. If it slowly heads up to wind, then she's balanced perfectly and the mast heel is in the right position. If your boat rounds up quickly, then you have too much weather helm, indicating that the mast heel is positioned too far back, so move it forward and do the test again. On the other hand, if your boat keeps going in a straight line, or worse still bears away, you have a touch of lee helm on your hands, hence your mast is too far forward. Mast rake is very important for our boat tuning, and to measure this we attach the tape measure to the main halyard, take it all the way up to the black band, and then measure to the transom on the centre line the exact distance between the top of the mast and the top of the transom. There are basically 3 settings: upright in the light to medium winds, the optimum mast rake position for the medium wind range, maximum power, and then all the way back in the upper wind range when we want to depower the boat. In light to medium winds we're looking for max power, and this means having your mast raked forward. The distance between the transom and the top of the mast becomes longer, and this helps to close the leach of the mainsail and the jib. As the wind increases, you'll want to drop the mast back to reduce the power in your boat. This works by reducing the distance between the top of the mast and the transom, which opens up the leach of the main and jib, helping to depower the sails. Remember, 16 knots or more doesn't have to be scary. Today is a classic example of when we might need to depower the boat, with gusts reaching about 18 knots. Pippa has raked the mast back a touch, but not right to the limit, as there's a fair amount of chop to break through and we need power for this. It's always worth bearing in mind your combined crew weight. Lighter crews will have the rig raked back slightly more than the heavier competitors to keep them from being overpowered in the mid to upper wind ranges. Raking the mast aft also moves the centre of effort back, which makes the boat naturally want to head up in the puffs, rather than being blown over sideways. A good rule of thumb is that if you're constantly easing the mains so that the boom's out beyond the corner of the transom, it's time to rake that mast back a touch. Spreader length and spreader angle are critical for our boat tuning. It affects both the power in the rig and the pointing ability. There are basically 2 settings. All the way forward at the outboard end gives maximum power to the rig. whereas all the way back at the outboard end depowers the rig by allowing the mast to bend more.
Looking at our boat from above shows the spreaders deflected forwards. This stiffens the mast up sideways, gives us more mainsail camber, holds the mainsail lead shape, which ultimately means more power. Great for light to medium winds and choppy seas. By angling the spreaders back to the midpoint where they're in line with the shrouds allows the mast freedom of movement, so it will bend forward. This reduces the fullness of the main and the power. Great for pointing, especially on flat water. Angling the spreaders aft induces pre-bend into the mast. This flattens the main and opens the leach, which depowers the rig and helps to improve pointing ability. Go for this option in breezy conditions and on flat water. Spreader length is also key to tuning your boat. Longer spreaders push the shrouds away from the mast, making it stiffer sideways, giving more power in light to medium winds and on waves. These also allow you to point slightly higher. Shorter spreaders pull the shrouds inboard from the straight line. This allows the mast's top section to fall off to leeward, twisting open the main's leach. The main becomes depowered and the heeling moment reduced, hence improved speed in the heavier breeze and on flat water. Do bear in mind your class rules when playing with spreaders to make sure that you fully understand the maximum and minimum length and angles permitted.
Rig tension is very important for both our boat tuning and pointing ability. Our basic boat tuning tells us that the flatter the water is, the more rig tension we require. The choppier the waves are, the less rig tension we require. Check your boat tuning guides for the figures required for the conditions of the day.
To measure your rig tension properly, use a loose gauge like this. It's really accurate and it's what all the top guys use. Tighter rigs give you more power and pointing ability on flat water. Today we have a few waves about and it's also quite breezy, so we've eased the rig tension a touch to soften the rig, which helps the boat to power through the waves. When the rig is tensioned properly for upwind sailing, the leeward shroud maybe just starts to go slack. If your rig's too tight for wave conditions, you actually increase the risk of breaking your boat. After all, something has to flex.
The use of the mast rem or chocks is critical for controlling the amount the mast bends, especially in the lower half. By increasing the mast rem or increasing the number of chocks in front of the mast helps to straighten the mast up and give the mainsail more power with a firmer leach. As soon as the wind speed starts to increase and we become overpowered, ease the mast rem or remove the chocks here to help the mast bend forward, and this will flatten the mainsail, open the leach a bit more, therefore depowering the boat in the middle to upper wind range.
Let's have a closer look. Here we've eased the mast rem to create a flatter mainsail and to produce a finer, flatter entry into the mast low down. This is excellent for flat water in any wind speed. You can see from the cross sections taken of the sail that the upper leach twists open, depowering the boat as the wind increases. By increasing the mast rem or adding chocks, the mast becomes straighter fore and aft. This gives more power and more depth of camber to the mainsail, which you can see from the cross sections. The result is a powered up mainsail, great for light winds and choppy seas.
The Cunningham Hull control is used to control the maximum point of camber in the mainsail. As the wind speed increases over that mainsail shape, the maximum point of camber goes further towards the leach. So therefore we need to tension the Cunningham hull to bring that maximum point of camber back to where it belongs to be. As the wind speed increases even more in the mid to upper wind range, we really tighten the Cunningham hull now so as to help twist open the mid-upper leach of the main, reduce the heeling moment of the boat, and therefore maintaining our straight line speed.
Let's take a closer look. In the light to medium winds we're looking for max power, and that can be achieved by having the Cunningham hull eased right off. you should see horizontal lines in the lower third of the sail. Don't worry, these so-called speed bumps show that you're all powered up. The centre of effort, that's also the maximum point of camber, is approximately 50% of the way back from the main's leading edge, exactly where the sailmaker designed it to be. You can clearly see this looking from above. Now as the wind increases, the centre of effort shifts towards the leach, giving you a leach profile with a maximum point of camber too far back, increasing your heeling moment and making you feel overpowered. To restore the point of camber to its optimum position, we pull a bit of Cunningham on, twisting open and depowering the top of the main. As the wind increases further, we really tighten the Cunningham to stop the camber whizzing off to the leach again. In fact, we bring the centre of effort further forward, and this results in a leach shape with a maximum point of camber closer to the luff of the sail, which ultimately depowers the boat. Now, one final word on speed bumps. Make sure you can see the difference between the speed bumps on the left and the diagonal ones on the right. Diagonal lines show that the mast is too bent and the leach too open, depowering the rig completely. This is more likely to be controlled by the kicker tension and mast ramp. The general rules are that the harder it blows, the more Cunningham you wang on whilst beating and reaching. When you get onto the run, always ease it here regardless of the wind speed for max power.
The kicking strap is perhaps the most important boat tuning control in the boat, responsible for giving us maximum power out of the rig or pointing ability. To get maximum power, we need to make sure that the kicking strap is slack, and therefore the mast will be straighter and the mainsail fuller and more powerful. But as we want to flatten the mainsail, we now tension the kicking strap. This has the effect of bending the mast and creating a much harder leach. This is what we want in the middle to upper wind range when racing on flat water. However, as soon as it goes light and lumpy, we need to ease the kicker again so as to give maximum power to the mainsail with a straighter mast with more mainsail leach twist.
The kicker is really important for trimming your sails well, particularly while sailing to windward. It controls your speed, pointing and stability through maintaining the correct leach profile. In the medium winds, have the kicker in a neutral position, trimming it for variations in wind speed, particularly in a double-hander. As the wind speed increases and you start easing the main in the gusts, pull some kicker on for good airflow over the sail. This bends the mast and flattens the main, giving you the closed leach profile you need, which helps with pointing. In the lighter winds, it's all about sailing with max power, so you ease the kicker, which straightens the mast, giving a fuller main with more leach twist. The twist is then controlled by pulling the main sheet on, giving a fuller sail with the leach profile we want. Let's have a look at this in practice. We have a fair amount of breeze today, so the kicker has been pulled on fairly tight. If Pippa now eases the kicking strap, we now get a more open leach profile as shown here. This will increase the speed of the boat through the water but reduce its pointing ability, so we need to compromise all the time with kicker tension. The 29er boys have a slightly different setup with a nav rather than a kicker. The principles are exactly the same, but note the kicker attaches to the boom from higher up on the mast, leaving more room for Alan to leap around in.
The positioning of your telltales is very important so that we can check the airflow across the sail for each point of sailing. The other important thing is to make sure that they are not either too long or too short, or near any stitching where they may catch. And the other key thing is make sure that they're not green, otherwise you'll always be on a header.
Telltales are an excellent indication that your boat is set up correctly and that you're steering a good course, particularly when beating. If all three telltales are streaming on your jib, then you know it's set up perfectly and that the fair lead is in the right position and that the tension is spot on. If the inner top telltale starts to lift, it indicates that there's too much upper jib leach twist. This is caused by having the jib too eased and or the fair leader too far back. Ultimately, this results in a lack of pointing ability and reduced power, hence poor boat speed in light to medium winds. On the other hand, if the inner bottom telltale droops, then the fair lead is too far forward, resulting in a fuller foot to the jib. This causes the slot to narrow, yielding more power in the head of the jib and again reducing pointing ability. Telltales are just as important for maintaining the correct mainsail shape too. The top telltale is key here, and for optimum pointing and boat speed, it should be streaming 80% of the time and stalling 20%. If the top telltale constantly stalls, then your leach is too firm. This will allow you to sail higher, but boat speed will be well below par. Ease your kicker a touch and pull on some more clew out haul. On the other hand, if it streams 100% of the time, then your leach is too open. This will increase your boat speed, but it's not good for pointing, so use your controls to close the leach a bit. Here we can see Nick now using his telltales whilst going to windward, using the telltales near the luff area of the main just to help him see that the sheeting of the mainsail is correct, and also that the mast bend is correct with the entry of the mainsail into the mast. Telltales here generally streaming horizontally or just breaking upwards towards the head of the sail. Here in the 420 we see the telltales streaming correctly, both off the mainsail leach and on the jib luff.
The clew out haul control on the mainsail is a very important boat tuning control, affecting the lower third of the mainsail. When the clew out haul is actually eased, you can see here how deep the mainsail is in the bottom third. Likewise, how the mid-lower leach is returning. As the wind speed increases, we want to tension the clew out haul now, and this helps to flatten out the base of the main and at the same time opens the mid-lower leach of the mainsail, therefore reducing the heeling moment of the boat. This is a much better shape now for the middle to upper wind range, especially on flat water.
Let's take a closer look at what happens to the sail when you ease the out haul. The clew moves along the boom slightly towards the mast. Looking from the top of the boat, you can see this creates a full sail. Go for this option when you require max power in the light to medium winds and in sloppy seas. By tensioning the out haul, the main moves along the boom towards the back of the boat, and this flattens off the sail. Go for this when you want to improve your pointing ability and depower the rig as the wind speed increases. Looking at the clew out haul here now, you can see Nick tensioning the clew out haul there. This flattens the sail off and has the effect also of opening the mainsail leach. Fine when you're on relatively flatter water and in the upper wind range and you want to depower the sail, but here it's now too flat and we'll be losing out on powering the rig. On the running leg, we've eased it slightly now for max power.
Use of the centreboard for boat tuning is quite critical. We would have it in this position almost all the way up in light winds on the running leg. Then for the reaching leg, we would lower it halfway. And then for when we're going to windward, it would be all the way down, especially in the light winds. The strops or the bridle play a major role in mainsail profile shape and mast bend. The basic rules are that the more the wind is blowing, the shorter the strops need to be, so that we can keep the boom on or near the centre line whilst sailing to windward. As the wind goes lighter, we can make the strops or the bridle longer, so that the mast now becomes straighter, more upright, with the mainsail much more powerful, with more mainsail mid and upper leach twist, which is very fast in the light winds, choppy seas.
Regardless of whether you have strops, a bridle system or a traveller, the basic theory is the same. Having the main tension to windward gives the mainsail more leach twist, which in turn creates speed. Not so good for pointing, so go for this option in light winds and choppy seas. Centralising the main strikes a happy medium with a slightly firmer leach, good for pointing and boat speed. This setup is more appropriate for the medium winds and seas. By tensioning the main to leeward, the heeling moment of the boat is reduced and the main becomes depowered. This is great for pointing, so opt for this on flat water and in the upper wind range. The spinnaker is the powerhouse of the boat when sailing off the wind, but to maximise your boat speed, it's crucial to have your pole at the correct height. It's easy to check that your kite is setting properly. When sailing on a beam reach, the spinnaker should be trimmed so that it's curling halfway down the luff of the sail, indicating that your pole height is absolutely spot on. If the luff curls higher than this, then your pole is too low. You'd only do this if the winds were lighter. If the spinnaker curls towards the bottom of the luff, the pole is too high, so pull on some pole downhaul to bring the curl back to the midpoint. If there doesn't seem to be any curl at all, then the kite sheets aren't being eased enough. Be careful not to do this, as it will close the slot between the spinnaker and the main and decrease your boat speed. Here we can see that the outboard end of the pole is slightly too high, with the spinnaker luff breaking in the lower third area first. Here now we have the pole too low at the outboard end, with the top third curling initially. So here Pippa needs to just raise that pole slightly at the outboard end. Here again, pole height just slightly too high. We can see that curl coming in that bottom third area initially. When sailing dead downwind on a run, the tack and the clew should be at the same height. In strong winds, don't let the clew go to windward of the forestay, otherwise your chances of a windward capsize are increased dramatically. Then of course there's the question of spinnaker pole angle, and again it doesn't have to be complicated. Set your pole so that it's perpendicular to the wind when sailing on a broad reach or a run. To gauge that you've got the right place, look at the Windex on top of the mast. If you trim the pole at right angles to the Windex, then the pole angle is correct. You can see that as we head up slightly onto a beam reach, the pole needs to be eased forward to keep that 90-degree angle with the Windex. The same goes for bearing off onto a dead run. Bring the pole back to keep that right angle to the breeze. The hardest part to tuning your boat correctly is actually realising when boat speed has improved, and that's where teaming up with a training partner can be really helpful.
When you're selecting your training partners, it's pretty important that you look at your own strengths and think about what you can gain from other people. Like Simon and I, for example, we trained with the Norwegian and German teams, Christoph and Frodo and Marcus and Max. And Christoph and Frodo are typical Scandinavians. They're a little bit crazy, pretty out there, very seat-of-the-pants sailors, but very, very fast at sailing the boat, particularly in light winds, which was something that Simon and I felt we needed to improve on. And secondly, Marcus and Max, completely the opposite, very, very structured, very typically German, very, very efficient and measured everything. And they just added some structure and some real discipline to the training that we're doing. By working with those two guys, it helped us to improve on areas that we really focused on and picked out as weak areas for ourselves, and that helped us improve a lot in our own performance.
Most importantly, please don't forget the basics of boat tuning. When we are racing on flatter water, we use flatter sails with firmer leaches and more rig tension. Whereas on the open sea, when we're on the waves, we use fuller sails with more twist and less rig tension.
This can be a hard subject to get your head around, but on the plus side it can also give you quite an advantage out on the racecourse.
Final word on the subject of boat tuning. Don't get obsessed by it. Once you've got your ferret machine going very fast in a straight line, focus on the rest of the race. How many times have I seen ferrets going very fast in the wrong bleeding direction?